Welcome to Phrase by Phrase, where we study the Bible one phrase at a time. And today we are studying James chapter 1, verse 14, part B. The last time we were together, we looked at the universal nature of temptation. Today, I want us to look at the continual nature of temptation. In James chapter 1, verse 14, it says, "But each one is tempted when he is carried away." And that phrase, "is tempted," is in the present tense. So this means that it's an ongoing thing. It never stops. You know, we're not going to just be tempted once in a while, but we're going to be tempted continually. And there is no safe place from which to escape temptation. And I think we are incredibly aware of that here in the United States, because we are bombarded with images from the moment we wake up until the moment we lay our heads down at night. Forbidden fruit is dangled before us in every imaginable way, from television ads to magazine covers to our smartphones to Facebook to internet advertisements to radio broadcasts. I mean, our culture is seductive to the core in every single way. Temptation is everywhere, and we could blame our decadent culture for the continual barrage of temptation, except that temptation is just as common in other parts of the world where it's not shamelessly displayed for all to see. I mean, we constantly face temptation, and it always follows the same pattern. For example, in 1 John chapter 2, John describes the pattern that temptation takes. He says, "Do not love the world, nor the things in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world," and then listen to this, he says, "the lust of the flesh and the lust of the eyes and the boastful pride of life is not from the Father, but is from the world." Now notice those three things he mentioned, because that's the pattern. He talks about the lust of the flesh. That's hedonism, which is the pursuit of pleasure being the highest good. That's what hedonism says. The lust of the eyes, that's materialism. And materialism says that matter is the only reality, so get everything that you can. And then there's the boastful pride of life, which is humanism. And humanism says that man's answers to life rest within himself. That's what comes against us, and that pattern has been with us all the way back to the very beginning. I mean, this is the same pattern that assaulted Eve when the serpent tempted her in the book of Genesis. You know, he tempted her to eat of the fruit. Well, the story tells us in Genesis that the fruit was desirous to eat. That's the lust of the flesh, or hedonism. And then we read that the fruit looked good. It was pleasing to the eyes. That's the lust of the eyes, or materialism. And then there was the promise of fulfillment, that if she took that fruit and ate it, her eyes would be opened. She would be like God, knowing good and evil. That's the boastful pride of life, or humanism, that you have to take into your own hands your ascendancy to become all that you can be. It's up to you and your own power and strength to make that happen, instead of depending upon God. Well, the thing that we notice in Scripture is that same pattern shows up again when Satan tempts Jesus in the wilderness. He was tempted, remember, on a number of occasions, he was tempted to turn stones into bread. Well, that's the lust of the flesh, or hedonism. He was taken and shown all of the kingdoms of the world and told that they could all be his. He saw them in a moment of time in all their splendor and glory. That's the lust of the eyes, or materialism. Or he was taken to the pinnacle of the temple, and he was told, "Jump off this temple and the angels will catch you and bear you up." And in accordance with a local tradition, when the Messiah came, he would make this grand entrance and they would catch him on the clouds. And so he's saying, if you make a big entrance like this, everybody's going to know that you are the Messiah. That's the boastful pride of life, or it's humanism, that Jesus is going to come and he's going to promote himself and his mission. So the pattern has always been there, and that's why we'll never get beyond the point of temptation, because it has been operating right from the very beginning of human history all the way up to this point. So we have to be on the alert. We cannot let our guard down. We can't take a vacation from vigilance, because it's at those moments when we want to relax and let our guard down that we're most likely to be tempted. And that seems discouraging in one sense, but there is hope, as we'll see. But first we need to understand the nature of temptation more fully, which we will see in other phrases in this verse. So join me next time as we continue the examination of the Scriptures, phrase by phrase.